You're more about the body in an energetic way. So that is a very physical way of expressing yourself. Now it's really about an energetic way of expressing yourself, and she's really trying to help you. She's a midwife, and she was 16th century, around 1613. That's what they're showing me. 1614. Oh, thank you, chills. And you were a midwife, so she understood poultices, she understood herbs, she understood all those kinds of things. So in today's day and age, that would translate for you, transmute that into holistic or herbology, but naturopath, homeopath.
So I'm actually a nurse, and I'm just switching notes with doula because I wanted to be
Yes! Girl,
more for like a really long time.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it to help people energetically, and nursing doesn't allow me to do that.
Yeah, so again, there's the practical and the energetic. So it's amazing how we talk about that first, the practical and energetic, before we came to you. See how the universe sets things up? It's like a chess game, right? So for you particularly, add
the sound was a little low there, but that's Angel Morgan, and I am so excited that she is on the show tonight. Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating today? For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. My show is about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating artists, celebrating all that life gives us. And life is also about those loved ones, both two-legged and four-legged, who move on. And tonight I am so excited. Thanks to my dear friend Sandra Bartman, I have a new friend in my life, and that is Angel Morgan. And I am so thrilled to sit down and talk with you tonight. I want to tell everyone before we start that a few weeks ago, when you and I virtually met for the first time, I had just a day or two before had to put down my beloved cat Shadow, and you gave me such solace. So I get to thank you publicly for that, and I thank you for being here tonight. So how are you?
I'm amazing. First, thank you so much for having me. I have been looking so forward to this, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey with Shadow. Like, there's no coincidence as to the timing of when we met, right? It's amazing. So thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity and to be a part of your life and be a new friend.
Well, before we jump into the steps that got you to where you are today, two things that I start every show with. First of all, I want to know who or what have you celebrated today?
Oh, what have I celebrated today? Well, I celebrated Sandra today, this person who brought us together because she has her podcast and we were taping that this morning.
Oh, wow.
And I was celebrating my new life downtown. I am doing this project, and I was living on a farm for a month to see how that made me feel energetically. And now I am celebrating my son, and I'm summering in the city with him, and he's 20. So how many moms get a son who say, hey, come and live with me, come and hang out with me?
That's a Mother's Day gift right there.
I have so much to celebrate in my life. I'm telling you, and I'm celebrating you.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to celebrate each other, and we're going to celebrate the guests that are watching tonight. Yes. And if any of you throughout the show have any questions, comments, suggestions that you want to throw our way, that's what this is about. This is not just about us having a conversation. It's about all of us collectively coming together tonight. So one of the things that I also do, this is the second part, is I have two mystery cards laid out. So pull either number 1 or 2, and we're going to get to know you a little bit deeper than just talking one-on-one, as we are going to be doing.
Okay, I'll pull number 1.
And your question of the night, and I haven't seen it, so I don't know what's coming up. It says, in what way do you feel that your childhood was happier than most people's?
Wow. My childhood was happier with music in it. My dad is a dancer. And yeah, he was a dancer, and we had a lot of movies in our lives, a lot of musicals in our lives. And I love that. And I think that's partly what's brought me here and given me the confidence to be on the radio and to be on stage, is that joie de vivre of being part of that community my whole life. I mean, I started I started on stage. In fact, I'm a classically trained actor in Shakespeare and his contemporaries. So I think that was part of the happiest part of my childhood, along with the animals. You know, I can't ever forget that. I love them.
Do you remember the first time that you saw your father on stage and what that was like for you?
So I actually never got to see him on stage. So the closest I ever saw him, the first time that I recall, I was a child and we were at a wedding, and this song came on. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember he was dancing with someone and he cleared the entire dance floor, and he looked like Fred Astaire, and he was just so beautiful because he's tall and he's lanky and he's just a miraculous wonder to watch when he was dancing. And I also remember being in the basement of our home and him teaching us how to ballroom dance.
I love that. You know, it's very interesting that that question came up, because one of the things that I always do in my shows is I want to go back to your 5-year-old self or close thereafter. I think that the photograph that you sent me, which I'm pulling up right now, now which one of these is you? Let me see if I can
I'm
guess.
on the left. I'm on the left. I'm
You're
not
on the left.
with my tongue.
Same. Yes. And I asked for this photograph at this time of your life because to me, this is the purest self.
Right,
Before
right.
life begins to tell you who you are not, who you should be, who you shouldn't be. So tell us about this little girl. And is this your sister?
Yeah, this is my sister, who's actually more insane than I am, and you can tell by this picture. She's hilarious. You know, my young self loved being in the basement choreographing, you know, Annie from It's a Hard Enough Life, and you know, Cats and all that kind of stuff. And I was an avid reader too at that age. I used to love reading monster books and stuff like that. But if you saw my bedroom, now you're like digging into my brain and what I'm remembering. I had a wall filled with pictures of all these old actors like James Cagney and Jimmy Stewart and, you know, just Cary Grant. And I was the weird kid at school. Right. I wasn't just weird because I could feel differently and I could see differently, but I was weird too, because, you know, growing up, even in high school, I didn't know who Duran Duran was or Police or that kind of stuff. I was the one who was always talking about, you know, Yankee Doodle Dandy and Oklahoma and Annie Get Your Gun.
We were the same kid.
Right. Right. And look at us now.
I know. And for me, it was a tobacco farm in South Carolina. And
Wow.
so you can imagine what that did to the psyche of my parents and my
Right.
family. You know, who is this person that has come into our lives?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
So you have this special gift, which we're going to talk about in a moment.
Yeah.
But when did you first become aware that you had this gift? And did anyone try to squash you from living that gift to its,
Right from the get-go, right from the get-go. So I recall my first real encounter with this, my recollection of it, I was about 5 years old. And I remember that in-between time when you're just waking up. And I saw my great auntie, and she was standing beside this tree. And I know it to be the tree of life. And she was tall and beautiful, and we're Maltese. So she had this beautiful aristocrat, this very aristocratic European way of holding herself. And she was wearing a death gown and a veil. And I remember waking up from that, and it was warm, like a summer day. And my mom came up the steps and she was crying. And this woman meant a lot to her because this woman basically raised her. And she said, your great auntie Mary died. And I said, yes, I know. And she said, how do you know? And I said, I saw her. Where did you see her? In my dream. And she looked at me, she said, you didn't see anything. You didn't know anything. And she just turned around and she walked away. And I'm thinking, like, the confusion, right? And I lived with that confusion for the majority of my childhood, my youth, until my young adult ages. And that was hard. It was really, really tough. But I have to say, theater really helped, because this is our energetic way as intuitives of expressing ourselves in a practical and safe way. So theater was a lifeline for me. It wasn't just something that, my parents did or my dad did, but it was a lifeline for me. It really was.
Now, there are so many questions coming up from just that, what you just told me. Getting back to your mom for a moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was fear that your mom told you not to, that you didn't experience this, although you did.
Yeah.
Um, do you know if your mom had also experienced certain things in her childhood?
So in my family, this does run somewhat in my family. My aunt can see, and my sister has dream time, and that's a whole other show in itself. Um, it's something that as Europeans, we talk about behind closed doors, but it's not something as Catholics that we bring to the forefront, obviously. And I was raised incredibly Catholic. I was a Sunday school teacher and all that jazz. And I do, and I love the ritual of it. And when I go traveling, I always look for the oldest Catholic churches to see them. I think it's beautiful. But because my childhood is steeped in religion and not spirituality, there was this conflict. And yeah, that was just something that we just didn't really talk about unless it was for fun or again, behind closed doors.
So, growing up, I'm going to assume that you had these visitations and these moments many times in your childhood. When did you begin to accept the fact that it was okay for
Ooh.
you, that this was as natural as breathing for you?
Well, my visions intensified around 6.5 years old because I was in a car accident. And in that car accident, I actually almost died. And I had a bit of an out of body experience. And I just started talking about this because there's a potential new television show that I'll be doing. And we needed some information. So I finally had that talk with her. And she was very open about it. In her old age, she's, kind of opening up, softening. And she said that's kind of when I started getting really weird, and I wear weird as a badge.
Me too. Me too.
And
To all the
so,
weirdos out there, I toast you.
yeah, exactly. God bless the freaks.
Right.
So yeah, it was probably around 28, 29. I was with somebody who started taking me outdoors, mountain biking, skiing, really activating that part of me. And when I hit the outdoors, all of a sudden, I started really like the clarity and the dream time. And there were things happening that had never happened before. And I didn't have a choice but to embrace it. So I started to look into it, and I really went into my heritage, my Maltese heritage. And I started getting really interested because in our history, because I'm a little bit of a magical historian as well. And I love different cultures. And I started to realize that we had the 28 temples of Tarshin. And this is where archaeologists say a lot of the goddess worshiping temples and cultures came from. And it was just miraculous. And it was just a rabbit hole from there. And I had a real issue because of the way I grew up being around women. It was a really hard thing for me until I stepped on this path and I met these women who are hereditary witches, and they own their own store, and they kind of embraced me. They showed me who I was. And once I became an animal communicator, which was the next step, they gave me the opportunity to practice and grow and shadow them and learn. And to this day, on and off, I was working with them, but to this day, I go there once a week to do readings, to ground. That's my grounding. That's my second family.
And I have to ask you this question. Is Angel your birth name?
No. So my angel was given to me by my first teacher, and I hated it. I hated it. I hated it because I think of angels with big wings and the frou-frou, and I'm not into the frou-frou. But I started working with South American medicine people, and they taught me that angels are not what we think they are. That's a very North American view. And when they helped me understand what angels really are and what they could be, all of a sudden it was like, yeah, this is who I am. And I started to embrace that. My birth name, which I have to probably kill you to tell you, also did not quite suit, but they mean something very similar. One who is full of grace is my birth name, and the angelic presence is angel. So in giving you the meaning, I kind of give you my name too. But that name I've grown into, I think, in many different ways. And yeah, I'm compassionate. Yeah, I'm kind, but I also see myself very much as a protector and a warrior and a healer. And so that name really exudes the work that I do on so many levels.
And Angel, do you believe that everyone is psychic or clairvoyant, or do you think that this is something that you're either born with or you're not?
Oh,
Because I believe I believe that more people are uh, part of the psychic realm than not, and that we've been taught not to embrace that part of ourselves.
yeah, Sandra said something this morning that I really liked. She said, "It is our birthright." And I think I really love that, because the reality is that this is a natural part of who we are. To be too in our logical mind is imbalanced. To be too in our spiritual mind is imbalanced. And together, that's how we make our whole and we have our wisdom. My son grew up with, when you use your head, you're clever. When you use your heart, you're smart. But when you use them together, that's wisdom. And so this is using your intuitive ability and your logic, science and technology with spirituality. All of these things have to work hand in hand. So yeah, I definitely believe that. I mean, if this was rocket science, I wouldn't be doing it. Like, seriously. One of my greatest teachings is follow your feel. Right. And that's a human thing as well as a spiritual thing. When we follow our feel, we're following our gut, we're following our hearts, we're following our souls. And that's when we really feel the magic, the true magic happening.
Well, and I hope this next statement makes sense to you, but I believe that your psychic abilities and your clairvoyance defines who you are.
Mhm.
And I also believe that you define your psychic abilities and the clairvoyance.
That is a beautiful, I don't think anybody has ever brought that up. And I absolutely agree with you 100%. We all have psychic ability, but it varies. And the abilities that we have define who we are. It really does. And it's also very cultural. The Italians have the knowing, and, the voodoo and the houdon, they have the root magic. And, every country and every culture has something, but we innately, each of us has our abilities. So even though I'm a clairvoyant, and I can do mediumship and I can do this and I can do that, I love my animals, and I think I truly excel with them, as much as I excel with my mediumship. But I love that. That's who I am. And if you see my world, you see who I am. You see that as the raccoon is climbing up into her cubby. I'm watching her. We have a mama raccoon.
Oh,
So oh yeah, we have animals everywhere here. It's incredible. So I believe that we each have an ability, whether we are oracles or mediums or medical intuitives, time walkers. We have so many different realms, witches, healers, because once we know what that ability is, and I think it's important to know, we start to live and become that. Which means wise woman healer. And a lot of medicine women, a lot of female doctors innately have that in them, or even in their heritage.
mhm.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up.
You mentioned earlier that you began to study this more. What path did you take that got you where you are today?
No matter what I go to, no matter where I study, I always end up in paganism. And the Norse path and the Celtic path seem to be what I really resonate with, even though I identify as Canadian Maltese. That path really pulls to me. And my mom just recently told me that there is Norse and Dutch in us only a few generations back. I thought it was like a millennia back, but apparently it's only a few generations back. So I've noticed for me that's the Celtic practices are the practices that I really love. And for me particularly, I read to heal. So you have healers who have psychic ability and it activates when they're healing. My psychic ability is at my beck and call. And when you work with me, there's always a healing by the end of it. You end up healing something within you, or a spirit is healed, because I don't just do it for the people. I do it for the spirits as well. I do it more for them sometimes than I do even for the living.
I want to talk about your work with animals and how that all began. Did you grow up in a household surrounded by animals?
So I had cats most of my life, and we had fish in the basement. My grandfather had this massive aquarium. It was a full wall when people still had those big oak aquariums, and we had like little sharks and catfish, and we had these exotics. And funny enough, in my animal communications, every communicator has a forte. I can communicate with any animal, but exotics are my forte. And so I grew up with animals, but it wasn't until a fortuitous trip to Guatemala, where a medicine man, I always get picked on, a medicine man told the woman that I was staying with, I was at a silent retreat. I accidentally signed up for a silent retreat. I don't know. Can you see me at like, no. So this medicine man came to the retreat and he said, there's someone here we need to bring to the mountains. And it was me. And I'm like, oh, okay. So she took me reluctantly. She couldn't stand me, this woman. She took me reluctantly into the mountains. And he put me through ceremony. And I thought this was gonna be like a great big, mansion and whatever. But it was a shanty town. And I literally thought I was going to die. I'm thinking, okay, you know what? That's it. They brought me here. I'm a gringa. That's it. I'm dead. And I'm sitting there waiting to go into this ceremonial space. And this little dog comes up to me. And for the first time, it was like so clear. And I literally, I was hearing, you're supposed to be here. Something to that effect of you're supposed to be here. And then it took off. And I went, okay, what was that? So he put me through ceremony and he said to me, you're going to talk to animals and you're going to make a difference in this world. And I thought he was on crack because I was a skeptic because of the way I was raised not to talk about it. I always felt like there has to be a limit somewhere. And so as a skeptic, as someone who is, really not a true believer, I was always looking for that limitation. Now I believe the only limitation we have are the ones we place on ourselves.
Amen. Yes.
Right. And so I came back to Canada and I was at a facility opening. I'm signing stuff and that kind of, everybody's signing their name, they're polite and whatever. A week later, I get this email and it says, don't forget you have an animal communications class. And I thought, what? So a friend of mine called and she goes, are you going? And I said, no. She goes, oh, yes, you are. And she dragged me to it. So I went to debunk it. I went to disprove it. And by the end of the weekend, not only had I signed up for the advanced class, but that story I was telling you about, they had one of their readers fall away. And that's how I ended up working there, was because of that, because whatever this medicine man did, he opened up something in me. And my mom, when I told her I was psychic, she didn't buy it. Like I was kind of don't talk about her. But when I told her about the animal communications, I remember calling her and saying, Mom, I have something to tell you. And she goes, oh God, what now? And I'm like, oh. And I said, well, it turns out I can talk to animals. And she just went quiet. And she goes, now that I buy. And I'm like, what? And she told me that I was always with the animals. Like that was something I didn't even remember. She goes, I would come in and, I'd have these like worms in my pocket and I'd always be with the animals who were always following me everywhere. So I think naturally I'd always done it, but I think all children do it. I think all children connect. We just don't realize we're doing it. And then these medicine men activated it on a conscious level.
How old were you when you told your mom that you thought that you were psychic?
I was, that's a good one. I think that was just after I had Joseph. So this is almost 19 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that. No, it would have been before that because that's 25 years. So I was doing this before Joseph. No, it's almost 22, 23 years ago. So it took me about a year or two to really get the courage up. Right.
You mentioned earlier that you had started out as an actress, and were you pursuing that as a career?
Yeah. So I started in theater when I was about 14, and I owned my own theater companies. I performed around the world. I did a lot. I was on cruise ships. I was a singer on a cruise ship. I absolutely loved it. But on my 20th anniversary, I think it was my 20th anniversary. Anyway, whenever it was, I decided I'm done. I'm finished. I just didn't want to do this anymore. And I retired, but then I had nothing to do. And so this is when it's like, okay, well, what do I do? And I remember now, I had a small stint as a personal trainer because I've always worked out. And in that time as a personal trainer, this is like the interim thing. That's when this started to really take. Right. That's when I would just be on the computer and I would be reading stuff and I would be doing stuff. And it was really funny. Now that I think of it, the gentleman who owned the women's gym that I was a part of, that I was a personal trainer at, he became a Tibetan monk and he was studying to be a Tibetan monk. So there are little threads all over my life that kind of go, okay, this was what you were always meant to do, right? And it was always there in the background.
Well, I was
Until,
going to ask you. I mean, I get this sense that it is almost like breathing for you.
yeah,
That it's something that you don't consciously think about, but
no.
that it is always there. When did you feel comfortable to start letting other people know about where you
Um,
were?
when I started working at the Hedgewitch, that's when I started embracing it, embracing my tribe, realizing there were other women who were like me, realizing that it's okay to be like this, and there are other people like this. And that's when I started kind of slowly going, okay, this is who I am. This is what I do. And I started working on that muscle and practicing that muscle and strengthening that muscle. And then within a year, I had two major things happen. My first appearance on stage, somebody asked me, go and do this on stage. And I went, okay. And there was always something missing in theater for me. And there was always something missing in the psychic world for me. So when I hit that stage with that opportunity, I went, oh my God, this is who I'm supposed to be. And within a month of that, I had my own television show. And within a month of that, I was on our national radio station here, News Talk 1010. So when the doors began to open, they don't just open for me, they fly open.
I
Right.
love that.
So yeah, it was fabulous. And this is what I teach. I teach that when you're on the right track, the doors open, the people, the teachers appear, the people like you and Sandra, they begin to come together, right? Like this journey to doing these two shows that I'm doing on this tour that I'm doing started last year. I decided for the first time to really embrace the producer that I am. And I thought, I'm going to do a show. And it was my favorite theater, the Factory Theater downtown. And I thought, I'm going to do one show and see how it goes. And I did the show and it just was so beautiful. I did a second. So this year I thought, okay, I'll do 3 shows and it'll be my 25-year anniversary. And then Sandra goes, no. You're going to come to the Plum. And she said, no. I know Bernie. You're going to go to the Triad. She goes, you're going to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. So 3 shows turned into 5 shows, turned into 6 shows. Turned into a full tour. And I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path with this. This is the new chapter of my life. And you understand new chapters because you have your new chapter now.
I have a new chapter that's happening right now. The first time that you stepped out on stage to present yourself in this chapter, what was that experience like for you? What did you learn about yourself from that evening? And how did people begin to find you? I mean, we've got your links here. And by the way, just to let everyone know, these links that you see scrolling on the screen are all going to be on my YouTube channel. So it's going to be very easy just to go there or to go to any of these links and get all this information. And we're going to talk about your upcoming events as well. But that first time that you were out there in front of an audience, let's go there first. Yeah. What did you learn about yourself from that point? And then how did people begin to find you?
So that first time I stepped out on stage, it was like going back to being an actor again and those nerves. But the difference is something happened that never happened before. I could feel all the spirits. Like there were 300 people. I started out with seating of 300 people, and I could feel them all coming in. I could see them all coming in. And I remember before the show walking into the empty theater, and I could see this guy's going to be over here and this guy's going to be over here. And this is what's going to come out for them. And this is what's going to come out for them. And I'd never had that happen before. Now I'm used to it. And so when I stepped out on stage, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was like every piece of the puzzle made sense. It was like I saw the picture, but it was scary for a moment because as soon as I opened my mouth, all of a sudden, and I kid you not, all of these spirits started coming down the steps in a group. And I remember having to be really strong and going, no, stop. Everybody step back or I'm not doing this tonight. You go stand by your people. And I remember saying that in front of the audience, not realizing I was voicing it. And that's when I kind of went, okay, so this is what just happened. And I told them the process I went through. And that was the realization of, I'm here to teach this. I'm not just here to do readings. I'm here to teach people what it is to live this lifestyle, right? As you saw in that clip. And I'm sorry about the audio. It just, somebody just caught that moment. And it was so beautiful because she validates that she was a nurse and that she was actually leaving her profession to become a doula. She wanted to be a midwife or a doula. And she wanted to know, homeopathy or naturopathy. And this young woman came in to let her know her past life. This past life girl who was a midwife, said, you have to come on our path now. Right. And it was so cool because that was her question. Her question was, do any of my past lives have anything to say to me? And that's what makes me different. I don't just do mediumship. I don't just do animal communications. I am a realm walker. So that means that I can tap into past lives. I can tap into the uncommon creatures like your guides and your guardians. Mm-hmm. And I can help you understand those shadows that you see at night that aren't necessarily ancestors. I'm connected to things that are very primal because of the wonderful medicine people from Africa, from South America, from Ireland, these elders I've worked with, from the indigenous people of my own country. I've learned so much in so many ways and the understanding of what's out there that, to me, there's still so much to learn, right? There's so much to connect to.
Well, I know being in this profession that I'm in as an entertainer, a lot of times there are people that will come to see the show because they are true followers of mine. They're true believers.
Yeah.
They are there. I've been called on stage a mystic and a spiritual. People have told me I get a lot that being in my shows is a spiritual experience, which I love. Yeah. But there are sometimes a spouse that comes and goes, oh, I really don't want to go see the show. But by the end of the show, I win them over. Right. So I'm assuming that in your situation, that sometimes there are true believers who come and they bring their spouses or their partners or whatever. And sometimes that person may end up being a skeptic. And I'm sure that you can feel that energy go through the audience where you go, I got them.
I love it. I love those moments. So I've had a few moments where there's a message for a skeptic and I will pick on them, and you see them, they get up and they're just like, okay. And I'll be like, okay, you're here because your wife dragged you here. I get it. Okay. And we laugh, we make that joke. But then and I find that the messages sometimes are the most profound for them. I find that the skeptics are the ones who end up making everybody in the room cry, because even though they're skeptical, something brought them there, right? Something made them come here. And that actually makes so much sense when you say that people have a spiritual experience with you. Like, that was one of the first things I noticed about you, is this angelic glow that you have, this light around you that you have. And as performers, we need to understand that this is healing. This is a healing art, right? We're not only connecting to each other as performers, but we're connecting to our audiences and we're giving them energy. The person that you come in as when you watch a show is completely different, whether you realize it or not, than the person you leave as, right? Something is healed, something is changed, something is transformed, and you're a part of that. You're a healer. That is who you are. That is your.
I read something the other day, and it just touched me on so many levels, that when you meet someone, try to walk away by having given them something more than they had when you met each other, rather than coming away from something. I know that we're both in a business where people are constantly reaching out for things that they need. It's a need that someone needs.
Yes.
But every day I get, can you do this for me? Can you do this? Can you do this? And I always think I want to give them more than than they had when I first encountered them.
Absolutely.
I want to go to your website because, first of all, incredible website. I love the fact that your website is raisingenergy.com as opposed to angelmorgan.com or something else. How did you come up with the title for your website?
I was walking out of a doctor's office and I remember, and this is how my life is, I ask a question. I need a name for my company. I need something. And all of a sudden I just heard Raising Energy. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool name. But when I started to realize or research what that name meant, Energetics, ancients, druids, witches, they raise energy in a circle. They raise this energy and then they release it to the universe. And so this is what I do. I raise the vibration of each person who comes into the room so that when they walk out of my office, they release it, right? And they become something more, like you said, than when they were coming in originally. So raising energy was literally channeled. It was given to me. Such a simple name, such a simple name.
Now, when the work began that you're doing with animals,
Mm-hmm.
what have you learned about yourself and the work that you do by communicating with animals? And you deal with animals that are both with us
Yes.
and animals that have moved on.
Yes. So animals teach me new things every day. There are so many different types of communications: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. Each animal is as individual as a human. But the one thing I've really learned is that we are one and the same. That is the biggest thing.
Now, I have a question that I want to ask you.
Yeah.
And forgive me for where I'm about to go.
That's okay.
There's a guy here online, Joan Mary. Do you know this person?
No.
And he's reaching out, asking everyone for their zodiac sign.
I'm sorry, he's reaching out for what?
He's reaching out. He's leaving messages for everyone to hear. And I'm just wondering, is this someone that you know?
No, that's a spam. That's a spam. You want to get rid of that.
To think that's what I wanted to
You want
know.
to get rid of that.
Everyone, don't give this person your contact.
No, don't do that. That's the unfortunate thing when we're working with platforms like this, everybody. Unfortunately, you will get stuff like that. So please ignore it. Go to your Facebook, go to that name, and you can report them and you can block them. Unfortunately,
Okay.
that's part of the.
So everyone, this is a spam, and I don't see a way to get rid of this person
Yeah,
here.
you have to go. You actually have to go to their Facebook page,
Right.
and you have to block them.
So everyone, make sure that you are not giving any of this information out.
Yeah,
So,
do not do that. Unfortunately, especially with readers, this kind of stuff happens.
mhm.
And we just kind of fluff it off. I usually just go, okay, guys, hang on a second. And I go over and I block it. If you're lucky to have a producer, they'll do it for you. But yeah, just ignore them. If you see that, just please ignore them.
Everyone,
Sorry.
so one play into this. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when do you work out of your home? Do you have an office?
So
What
I do.
is a quote unquote normal or typical day like for you?
There's no such thing. Typical day for a reader. That's a great one. No, so I actually work with a wonderful company that has 3,000 offices all over the world. So I am based in Toronto. I have an office in Toronto, in Newmarket here, which is the Hedgeridge. I have one in Oakville. So I have 3 offices here. But I am known, I do also go to New Orleans. I'd love to do some readings in New York. So that's one of the things I'm going to be doing there, is checking out their spaces, because I do office share. A typical week for me is I do 1 day a week in the office, and then I do in-home readings or facility readings if they're animals. And then I do a lot of Zoom. So I have clients all over the world. I have Brazil and, in France and Mexico and Malta. And my day is wonderful. It is wonderful. And then I still blessedly have time for myself. So I go and work out and I get ready for my duathlons and my mountain bike races and all, because I believe, like I said, there's the physical and the spiritual, right? So this is a typical day for me. I'll get up, I'll go work out, I'll go train, I'll do my video Zoom stuff, or I'll go to the office. I'll come home and I will study. A lot of times I study.
And is your son tapping into this energy as well?
Oh my God, my son is 10 times anything I could be. My son is a miraculous being. He is of a generation that is so evolved. And so, yeah, like he and I will text each other. He'll go, Mom, can I borrow your eyes? Can I do a yes or no? Or I'll text him, honey, I need a yes or no. Are you cool with that? And so we're constantly going back and forth. Ever since he was a child, I realized, I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing this because he needs guidance. And so he has grown up strong in his sight, especially with animal communications. He's amazing. When he was a little boy, I remember coming in the room and there was a spider and he had his finger and he's going like this and the spider's following it. And I'm thinking, oh, that's really cool, until I realized the spider was going backwards. And he goes, look, mommy, he goes, I'm making it go backwards. And I'm like, okay, creepy, creepy. So his big thing has always been like insects and things like that, but very specifically spiders. But if I need help, I'm always, Joseph, can you please tap into the cats because I'm too close to this right now? Or can you do this for me? And he'll do the same for me. And he's quite wonderful, but he does it quietly.
Now, I want to ask you about something that's been weighing heavily on me the last couple of weeks. I hope you're not offended by this question that I'm going to ask. But I want, and I'm not getting political, anyone, but there's been a lot in the news here about the South Dakota governor who bragged about shooting her puppy and taking this dog Cricket's life. I don't know if this is something that you've heard about in the news there in Canada, but it's been news because she's very political. Not only did she do this, but she bragged about it in her autobiography.
Yeah, so as soon as you talked about the dog came through, and the dog is in denial. Like the dog is, no, mommy wouldn't do that. She wouldn't do that. No, not my mommy. My mommy wouldn't do that. Right? This didn't happen. So I feel like this dog is actually not even aware that it may be even crossed over. So this is something where in a session, I would help this animal cross over. And that's probably something I'm going to do afterwards. Because
because the pain that I was in losing Shadow.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most heart-wrenching experiences that we as human beings face when we have to let go of our fur babies.
Yeah.
And looking back now, and you said something to me that really put me at ease. And I don't know if you recall saying this, but you said he let me know when it was time, and he did.
Yes.
And it had been something that I had been putting off, and that morning I got the sign that it was time to do this.
Right.
And I called our vet who came, and we did it here at our home, and it was all with love and affection. But to see that someone would harm an animal deliberately or something, like I said, it's been something that's been weighing heavily on me.
Yeah.
And thank you for, acknowledging that. I'm glad that Cricket came to you.
Yeah, me too. And sometimes that's what will happen, right? Is you're mentioning this now. I knew nothing about it. I have watched news. I remember one time I watched this news segment, and the person that I was with, he turned around and he goes, "Is there something you can do about this? Because this horse was lost." And I said, "No, unless somebody calls me, I'm not getting involved." And not an hour later, I get a phone call. And it's the owner of this particular horse. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I truly believe that if a circumstance is meant for me, if a case is meant for me, it's going to come to me. And there's no harm. Whether it happens or not is irrelevant. For me to go away from this and go, okay, I'm going to do some healing on this dog to help it cross. Right? Whether you believe in it or not is irrelevant. It's the fact that someone is actually willing to do that, willing to take those steps to help that spirit. And so I'm grateful to you for bringing this particular cricket to me. And I hate the confusion that this animal is going through. Like even now, I'm still tapped into it. So I'm going to ask Cricket to kind of I'm going to come back to you. And he goes, yeah, we got to talk to my mommy. I'm hearing, he goes, I got to talk to my mommy. We got to talk to my mommy. So I'm just going to do some work with him a little bit later. But yeah, and that's not what I was expecting. And that's one of the things I love about this work too. I always expect the unexpected. And the more unexpected that is, sorry, you're hearing the scratching sound. That's my cat.
Your cat wants to come in?
She's scratching on the post. She will at one point. Mumbai, come say hi. Come on, sweetie. Come on up. You gonna come? Oh, I would love it if you did. I would love it if you did. Oh, and here she is.
Oh my God, what a cutie.
Oh my God, she's right
What's her name?
Yeah, this is my cat, Mumbai. And she is 14 years old. And she is one of my grounds. She actually saved my son's life. And so she is my everything. She is my all. This is actually the best she's ever looked on camera. baby,
Wow.
you look good. You look good.
And I love the fact that she looks right into the camera.
Yeah, me too. She's never done that before. Yeah, she's amazing. And there is a mythology around calico cats too. When we found her, that was a magic in itself. I had just started animal communications, and the man that I was with at the time, he said, "There's a cat under our deck," and this was mid-January. And I remember standing at the window. He goes, "I can't reach her." And I remember standing at the window going, "If she's meant to come to us, let her come to us." And the next day, she actually came in. She came to him, and she had the mange, and I didn't have the money to help her. And so I stood at the window and I said, if I'm supposed to help her, send someone. We need to do something. I don't know what to do. And I was in tears. The next day, I was at the Hedge Witch, that little story I was telling you about, and this woman comes in, and she and I were talking, and I couldn't for the life of me pin her work. And usually I can pin that. And so she tells me at the end, she goes, "Well," I said, "It's so weird. We were talking about Mumbai. We just got on the topic." She goes, "Do you know what I do for a living?" I said, "No, I couldn't pin it." She goes, "I'm a vet and I do charities once a month." She goes, "I would like to help your cat." And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And this is the kind of life I live. This is the kind of life that we all can live. You ask, what's that saying? Ask and ye shall receive.
Absolutely. I want to talk about your upcoming events that are going to be happening here in New York, how lucky we are. And everyone, a month from tonight, you're going to be at the Triad on 72nd Street in Manhattan. And then on the 1st, you're going to be at the Plum at Sandra Bargeman's place, which is incredible. Great energy there. You're going to have a great, great time. But I'm pulling this up on the screen. When you are putting together an evening such as this, how do you plan out the evening, or do you not plan out the evening?
No, I don't. So basically what I do is I'll book the theater. We have our technical, which is my favorite part of it. I used to own a rehearsal space because I realized a long time ago, I love the process. And we'll get in at like,
You just said that. I just said the same thing
right,
to someone this morning.
right? Like I love the show, but the process is my favorite. So I'll go in at like 2, 3 o'clock. We take a look at lighting, what kind of scheme we have. Like at this point, I know my colors, I know what I like. And then that's pretty much it. Then I get on stage, I do my work. With the Factory Theater, we're kind of ramping it up a little bit because I'm here in Canada. I have those connections. We had a drummer, and I'm hoping in the States to have, I know the Dragon Ritual drummers, so I'm hoping next year to do something a little bit more extravagant and have them work with me. But I've had a drummer with me at Factory Theater, and I've had celebrity hosts for the second half of my show. So how my shows work is in the first half, I read cold. So I go to individual people. So I don't go to a section. I go, okay, does somebody have somebody with an A? Right. What I'll do is I will look very directly at someone and say, okay, can you please stand up? Here's your message. This is what we're doing. So I'm very, very specific. And then in the second half of the show, after the intermission, people can ask their questions. So they get to stand up. A lot of times I'll have a host or something like that, and they'll be going around with the mic, and they get to ask their questions. And it's a very simple format. I'm in and I'm out, and it's lovely and it's easy and it's fun and it's entertaining and it's compassionate and brilliant, and just my audiences are just yummy. They are so I don't know what I would do without them.
Do you like being on the road?
I do and I don't. I like being on the road for short stints. I don't think I could do like months on the road because I miss home. I'm a Gemini, right? So I'm very bipolar. I love being out.
You've got a birthday coming up next month.
I do actually 2 days after the Triad.
Oh, wow.
So I've decided I am staying for my birthday. Last year I was in New Orleans for my birthday. This year I'm going to be in New York or the Catskills for my birthday.
Oh, that's great. I always love performing on my birthday. There's something about that experience for me personally.
It's magical. I've done that and it is magical. Yeah, I'm really blessed. I've had so many wonderful experiences. My schedule is my own. So I travel when I want to travel. I'm home when I want to be home. My animals understand. I actually even have a snake. And her name is Lula Bell. And Lula is wonderful. And I've always had snakes. That's my medicine. That's my spirit animal. So my former snake, Severus, he worked with medicine people from Peru. And when he passed away, we told them and they did ceremony for him. And when my cat who just passed as well, Whitey, she was my reading cat. If you go to my Instagram, Raising Energy, everybody knows her as Boss Cat. And when she passed away, I told a friend of mine, and they did ceremony for her as well. So it was quite lovely.
So I want to let everyone know this hour has flown by for me. I mean, we've got
I
about
know.
10 minutes left. If anyone has any questions that you want to ask, by all means, post it in the chat.
Yes, I
And
would love to do some readings. I would love to do some readings. If you have any questions about any aspect of your life, please let me know. And Richard, I don't have my glasses, so you probably will.
I will do that. Veronica Moongazer says, and I'll bring this up on screen. She said, "There's nothing. She's the best. If you can be there, you should." And I love this. There's nothing like seeing Angel live in action. Wish I could be in New York City for the show. If anyone has a question or anything, this is the time to ask. But I read one of my favorite books is The Artist's Way, and I do.
I just finished it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And I do my morning pages every morning, and I have put together some questions. I sit and I meditated on these questions based on my readings this morning, and I want to ask you, what is the most valuable lesson that you feel that you've been taught by the work that you do?
The most valuable lesson is that we are limitless. That there is the only limitation we have is the ones that we place on ourselves. And I think the other one is there's no such thing as a problem in life, only opportunities to learn and grow. And that literally has saved me in my life, knowing that and understanding that. So I think that's probably the most profound learning that was given to me by one of the first ghosts I ever saw, one of the first spirits I ever saw.
Let's try to answer some of these questions
Please.
here. Kayla Sebald says, "Hi, Angel. Does my dog Lou have any messages for me?"
So I see Lulu is very happy. Kayla is one of my favorites. You need to start communicating more deeply. I want you to get more still with Lou because Lou is looking at you. So when an animal looks you in the eye, a lot of people get that. They stare at you. They're actually trying to communicate with you. They're trying to give you images or feelings or even thoughts. Dismiss nothing. It's one of my greatest learnings to people who are stepping on this path. Listen, dismiss nothing, and then have the courage to act. So with Lou, I want you to go deeper, Kayla. I want you to start really to close your eyes and just feel what he's trying to show you. What images is he giving you? And then I want you to play and act on it and see how it goes.
Great. We have a question here from Anne. And the question is, what classes my angels and guides would like me to take?
What classes would your angels and guides like you to take? There's the first thing I see is you need to work on your physical body, and it's not for fitness, it's for alignment. You need to realign. Something's a little off for me, but for you, something a little gentle. Pilates is good for you, and that's what I keep seeing. But it's about the mental, physical, and emotional alignment. So for you, it's not about career, and I think that's something that we could talk about if you wanted to and go deeper. But for now, that's a major message for you. And you're not getting outside enough. You need to get into the forest. You need to go for hikes. You need to get your breath going a little bit. Okay.
Great, great. This is from Erin Smith. And the question is, do you have any advice for myself and my daughter? I hope I pronounced her name right. Isla or Isla.
What a pretty name.
Yeah.
I love your connection. You two are going to go through rough patches in her life, but please, please, please never think that that connection can be broken. It cannot. You two have past life together, and you two have followed each other in many lifetimes. So, they say familiarity breeds contempt, and you guys have been together so long that it's one of those things where you need to give her some breathing room and understand that that connection will always be there. Okay. No matter what happens, it will always be there because you love her so much. But I know sometimes it's like, that kind of thing.
Well, great. Tiffany Ann Chadwick has a question here. Why has Binksy Cat been the way he is with my sister Laurie and baby Charlie the last couple of times that they've been here?
It's displacement. So Binksy likes his space. Binksy likes who he is. But in this particular case, I feel left out. So pay a little bit more attention to Binks when Charlie is around, please. That's the biggest message.
I just love you. I can't wait to be in your presence physically. Suzanne Richard, do you have any advice for me?
Suzanne. This has to do with work for you. I keep feeling like, watch who you say things to at work. Watch how much you divulge of, like, just watch your words and watch how much you say, because I keep feeling like, I don't know if you're being dismissed or somebody's dismissing you because they want to use your ideas or they run with your, I don't know what that is. Just be a little bit more conservative with the things you say around certain people, and use your instinct. Follow that feel on who you can say things with and who you feel safe with and who you don't. Okay. Yeah.
I have a moon calendar, and I'm going to read you what it says today.
Okay.
The moon is in Taurus, everyone. And it
Yes.
says, keep your feet on the ground today under the earthy Taurus moon. Some people may say hurtful things, but if you steady your emotions, all should be well throughout the upcoming weeks. So it's along
So
the,
that's a very big one for you, Susanna, right? So just reel it in a bit, just a
it's
little
the
bit.
energy here.
Yeah.
Here from Ann Kim. Hi,
Mhm.
Angel. Did I lose my opportunity to reconnect with my estranged family member?
No, you are going to get more opportunities. Remember, when one door closes, another one's going to open. So no, this one could have been a little bit easier. You could have had an easier time, but yeah, you're going to continue to reconnect, and you'll get opportunities to nurture relationships. Be cautiously optimistic. Don't jump into things for you. Just take your time with relationships, okay? Because you can be very eager because you're so loving. And so in this particular case, we want to be a bit patient, take our time, really nurture things, because I keep feeling like there's even a male who can get a bit spooked. Okay, so just be cautiously optimistic.
Great. Debbie Marcotte, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Debbie, I would like to know, where now is my journey? Thank you always.
For you, there's going to be a bit of a down period in May. But what's really funny is I'm seeing June start to really pick up for you. And June is going to be very interesting for a lot of people, especially if you're entrepreneurial, because we're going to be in Jupiter, and that's about money. And this is going to be a big time for money. I'm not an astrologer, but it's something I know because Geminis are really going to do well as of June. But for you, Debbie, I know you're very animal oriented too. For you, it's, and literally I'm getting, just keep going, keep the pace. I know that your last job didn't fit, but what's coming for you is going to be a mighty fit. And this isn't psychic. I know her. I know she just had a job that she didn't quite fit into. But the next job for you is going to fit. That's kind of a stepping stone that's making you dig deep. And you need to dig deep right now. That's okay, because it's going to make you better for the next opportunity that's coming for you. Promise, cross my heart.
And we have time for one more here. And it's me, Isla. Thank you for the first message. I have another one. What do my guides want me to do to feel more connected to them? And how can I see again, as well as be able to listen to their advice?
Okay, so for you, forest, and streams. Okay, be by the forest, be by streams. I keep getting talk to nature. I keep getting, you need to commune with the trees, as weird and as woo-woo as that might sound. Remember, we're learning now, even scientifically, that trees can connect. They can communicate with each other. And if they can communicate with each other, guess what? You can communicate too. The second you touch a tree, you are now connecting your energy to theirs. So I want you to start going into the forest, being quiet, asking trees questions and asking the forest questions, and then just allowing the information to come. And again, listen, dismiss nothing, and act.
That's wonderful. And I want to remind everyone, again, if you are in the New York area, the Triad Theater in New York City on Friday, June 7th at 7 o'clock, a month from tonight. And then the Plum, Catskills, USA, Saturday, June 1st at 7 p.m. This has been so much fun for me. And I get such energy from you. So
I love being here.
that's wonderful. And you're welcome. I'm not going to be doing this anymore, but we'll find other ways of doing this. And anytime you're doing anything, please let me know, and I will update the information on my YouTube channel so that it's always up to date with whatever you're doing. I'm going to give you a moment to say your final word today. And it could be about anything that we spoke about. that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want to leave everyone with today.
Really quick. I would love to say hi to the captain of my paranormal team. Glenn is here tonight, and I think that's really great. I feel very supported by this particular community, and that is something that I do too. So I work with my paranormal team here, and one of the things I've learned is that science and technology and spirituality go together. We are fully in balance when we embrace everything about our world. So embrace and follow your feel, everybody.
And Angel, having a skipper and a captain on the same realm is very, very good. Again, I'm going to say my final words, and then I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to let you have your final word. And when you say good night, I've got one other clip that we're going to share. And I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I am embarking on a new channel, listen to me, a new chapter. And I'm going... I started doing this podcast, and for those of you who are here for the first time, consider subscribing and checking out the other content. There are over 900 interviews that I've done, mostly in the celebrity world. I've had other psychics and other spiritual people on the show as well. So there's a little bit for everybody on my channel. I started doing this in response to COVID, and then it became a full-time job. I mean, you should see the books that I read. And I am one of those that reads every book from cover to cover when I have a guest on my show that I'm interviewing who has a book to promote. And it really was taking up a lot of my time. So it's time for me to focus on my stage work again. And that's where I'm headed. So I'm committed to the shows that are on my schedule. And when those finish, I will be focusing on the work that I'm doing. If any of you have friends in London, I'm going to be performing there on August 5th, which is actually the 45th anniversary of my coming to New York.
Wow.
So it's exciting that I'm going to.
Congratulations.
So it's very exciting. But the message that I leave with every show, whether it be on stage or virtual, is to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Everybody that's here, most of you are on Facebook. Go to your Facebook friends list. And Angel, I want you to do the same thing. Go to your Facebook friends list, and the sixth name that pops up tonight, reach out to that person with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. And let that person know the impact that they've made on your life. And by doing so, you're going to make an impact on their life. I have a dear friend, Sean Moniger, and he says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different sized boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side.
Nice.
I'm going to leave the screen, and Angel, it's all yours. And like I said, when you say goodbye, I will take care of ending the show, so you don't have to worry about that. Here she is, everyone, Angel Morgan.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Richard. It has been an absolute delight being on this show. My God, I love your energy. I just want to squeeze you. You're so beautiful. But my last thought for everybody is this. We are all energetic beings. We are all psychic. Follow your feel, listen, dismiss nothing, and have the courage to act. Even if it's one little act of kindness every single day, you're dropping an energetic pebble into the universe. And that is your birthright. It is your birthright to be strong. It is your birthright to share energy. It is your birthright to lift others as they lift you. So I'm going to leave you with this. Follow your feel. And thank you so much, everybody, for having me tonight.